Namaskar. Hello and welcome to 𝗣𝗃𝑔uru's channel. I'm your host, Sree Iyer. Joining me today again is Aadi Achint of Dev Talks, and we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, that is the future map of Pakistan. Is it going to resemble something like this, or are there going to be some other differences? We're going to go into the thought process that went into drawing of this map. Why? That's why I have asked this question, कब, क्यों और कहाँ. So kaha meaning like, is it reality or kisi ke sapne mein, right? You get the idea. I'm sure many of you understood that. So please like this video, and we want to give a rousing welcome to Aadi Achint. I think this is the second time he's coming on our channel. So let's welcome Aadi Achint. Aadi, namaskar and welcome to 𝗣𝗃𝑔uru's channel.
Namaskar, sir. Thank you so much for having me on your show, sir.
I don't know how many people have analyzed your name, Aadi. You are the beginning of the endless. No. Chint is... what do you call chinta? Chinta nahi hai, so
means
soch
without chinta, and the
without
beginning
chinta, right?
without chinta to start.
Awesome name. Your parents picked a very nice name, very different,
Thank
and yet it makes you to think. अरे ये क्या है कि इसमें कुछ है, नाम में कुछ है. I'll give you an example. Dhurandhar 𝗤𝗏𝗍𝗃𝗃. I mean, you hear that thing, it's like, oh my goodness, what is this name?
It tells you something.
Yes, indeed. So this is a serious topic. So jokes apart, let's get into this. We are going to be centering our conversation into a map that Aadi has tweeted out, and I saw that and I said, well, let us have a conversation going on this. And I'm going to yield the floor to you, Aadi. And here's the map. Let's talk about how this came about. Floor is yours.
Well, sir, I've been doing this research on cartography since the time the Chinese started fingering us with regards to new maps. And I realized that we keep talking about a lot of things, but we need to actually streamline what we want in life. We need to know, bhai, baaki sab theek hai, what do you want? theek hai? So I created a map of China, which went quite viral actually. A lot of people have done studies on it, and it's actually Chennai Center of China Studies did some research on it. The Jindal Institute did a whole program on it. I don't think they know where that came from, because I didn't put any watermark or anything like that. I just let it out. The idea is to first understand your enemy, sir. Know thy enemy. That's the key thing.
Yes.
Know his fault lines. Like the Chinese understand our fault lines, the Pakistani ISI knows our fault lines very well. We should know theirs. And it should be right down to the public domain. Because sabse bada, the thing people say is, let's break Pakistan. Let's break Pakistan into 4 pieces, 5 pieces, 8 pieces, whatever you want. No problem. Then what? What does Pakistan look like? What happens to each one of those areas? What happens to the people there? What happens to the government? Who decides that? What is their water supply? What is their religious entity? What is their social standing? What is their economics? That whole thing needs to be sorted out. If you're looking at being a regional power, these are questions people will ask you. Ki, theek hai yaar, you guys are saying disintegrate Pakistan, and do what after that? So it's not that you can keep running to America and say, yaar, please now handle this situation. We've created a monster right next to our backyard. Please handle this for us. It cannot happen. We need to figure out, we need to have our own solutions. I don't know if the government has one or not, but this is something which is, I thought of it. So, I mean, if I may just take from the top, there's the POK Gilgit Baltistan area. We know that area is infested, right? It's infested with terrorism. It's infested with all sorts of nefarious elements. We know the history of Balakot, where you have Syed Ali Shah Barelvi, who was assassinated somewhere in the 13th century, 12th or the 13th century, and that place is like a hub center of all these hardcore radical Islamic activities. So a lot of people say that hardcore radical Islamism just started. I refuse to believe that. It has been there for a very, very long time. So Balakot is like a hub center. I mean, we destroyed one building when we 1 or 2 or 3 buildings. I'm not sure, but we hit something there, and there's a reason why the government of India actually hit that place. There is a good, very, very deep factor to it. So that entire area, you need to look at it very carefully, because Gilgit Baltistan is the center of the geopolitics in this region, sir. Gilgit Baltistan connects you to Central Asia, it connects you to Afghanistan, it connects you to China, it connects you to India, whatever's left of Pakistan. All that stuff is there, right there. You got the CPEC going there. So you'll have to do a lot of things to push that off. We know that CPEC, the Chinese are no more very, very keen. They're just continuing on, lingering on. The story is going on. So CPEC is there. We need to take that into consideration. Apart from that, my main thing is the people, sir. So my point is that you need to let them be for 10 years, create a governmental structure there, and say, by show us that you're human beings. Show us that you can behave yourself. Show us that you've removed all this stuff. Because please understand, when you inculcate all these things, so the first thing is the demography. Right? You will disbalance the entire demography because of the religious part of it. I don't have, I don't need to explain this further. We know what the issue is in that area. And if you create a majoritarian sort of a population within that area, you'll have a successionist movement starting in the entire zone. Because that's how these guys are, right? That's what they want to do. They will get influence from somewhere here, there, and they will start that entire activity. So that needs to be very clearly said that, yeah, listen, you guys need to show us that you're human beings. Foreign policy and defense we will manage for you, but further than that, you need to figure out and tell us that you can actually start up industry, you can start up proper education systems. They need to be public end surveys, they need to, all that stuff needs to happen before any sort of inclusion happens. And there also I have my hesitations, because in case the population is not coming under control, which is, I mean, you can imagine they've been indoctrinated for 70 years, and I'm talking about a period of 10 years, which is nothing. We've seen what is happening in Kashmir, sir. 2019, when we did the Article 370, everybody says sab kuch theek ho gaya hai. But then please understand, these terrorist activities that happen, they happen because of some amount of local support. There are still few elements in that area.
OGWs,
Yeah, absolutely. So you need to basically ensure that you're completely covered. You cannot have another insurgency in your hand just because you have this dream of taking land back. We go a little west of that, you've got this area of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. I mean, I don't think I need to say anything further for that, because if you notice at the edge of Gilgit Baltistan, where the duck's nose is there, that's a place called Chitral, where the TTP came and hit right now really hard. They claim this area as theirs, and they refuse to understand anything else. Now they've come up to the borders of Islamabad, sir. The flags of Taliban are flying there. They are collecting taxes already as we speak. So this part to me has already gone. If somebody in Pakistan needs to keep the map like that and this and that, that's perfectly all right with them. But to me, this thing is already been taken by the Afghans. So I'm giving it back to the Afghans. Yes, sir.
So your first domino to fall is actually this area, is what you're saying?
Yes, sir. The first domino is this and the Baloch area. Nobody goes there in certain areas of Balochistan, sir. Even the Pakistani army doesn't go. Because the Balochis have actually tied up with everyone here. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, they've tied up with everyone. Everyone possible. They've got a TTP, I don't know, PKK, this, that, all sorts of things they're tied up with. Why? Because they want to create that fear syndrome within the Pakistani army that this entire belt, north to south, you will get attacked. And you will get attacked by a cohesive force. So the dominoes are actually breaking down right there in the western side of Pakistan, which is already happening. There is no question about it. You also have Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which is a very, very clear thing, sir. Their historical thing in Afghanistan. Now, see, when you make a map, you need to take the sentiments of the local people. The problem with the maps that were made with India and with Africa, for that matter, you look at the straight lines that have been drawn in Africa and look at the wars that they are in today. Look at the lines that were drawn in the northeast and look at the issues that we have today. You have, because the local population was not considered. They just looked at religious this thing, either udhar, and just drew the damn map and be done with it. So that was very unfair. Anything that happens in the future needs to consider that local sentiment. And the local sentiment says one thing very clearly, Atak tak. They say it. Till Atak, it is our area. After that, it is Hindustan. So the Taliban even now says it. Boss, till Atak is ours, beyond which is yours. And they say this is our historical boundaries. This is what we believe in. There is a way to deal with these Afghans, sir. You are dealing with them as we speak, as a matter of fact. That's one of the reasons why your embassy is still working there. Your projects, I believe, I can't prove it, but something or the other is happening. And you're still sending aid and this and that to Afghans. So that means there is some setting that you've got with them. You can deal with these people. Okay? Yeah, there is a radical element there as well. But that radical element is heavily controlled, not like the Pakistani radical element, which is free-willing. They do what the hell they feel like. I don't think the Pakistani armies or the ISI is in fully control of Hafiz Saeed or anybody else like that. Let me go back to the point, sir. Jab Hafiz Saeed, his house was bombed, right? They blew up a bomb in front of his house. A lot of people blamed the RAW on it. I said, yeah, if RAW needs to hit something like that, they will hit his house, not the gate of his house. If you're going to take a risk of bombing someone, then you bloody well make sure that guy is dead. This is a messaging that was done by the Pakistani ISI for whatever reason. So that thing needs to be kept into consideration. Coming down towards Balochistan. Balochistan is a it's a given cause. There's nothing to do about it. The kind of atrocities that are coming in today, it's a very given thing. And Balochis, one thing is there is that movement which is building up, and there is that solidarity which is building up around the world for them. Dheere dheere karke, there is some amount of work which is happening in that particular aspect, because the Balochis have realized that till the time you don't speak, you will not be considered properly. So today they've started speaking, and they've also created a force which is scary with the kind of attacks which are happening. They claim 10, 15, 20 Pakistani soldiers dead every now and again. So it's not that this is a very peaceful place and I'm trying to snatch it away from Pakistan or anything like that. That's not the case. These guys want to separate as it is. You've got the port of Gwadar, which is very important. So Balochistan, as per se, if you leave it be, they've got gas, they've got minerals, they've got a port. So it's a sustainable place for them to start doing business. I don't think they will be very averse of getting in the Afghans to use the ports, and the Afghans will also be able to do some amount of business. The idea, as I said earlier, sir, has to be sustainability of a place. You have to ensure that they have something to earn, something to live on, and something to propagate after that. Otherwise, they'll be coming towards you, refugees. The biggest fear of a breakup of Pakistan in anybody's mind is, how will you handle so many refugees? You don't need to handle refugees if you make their area self-sustenant and you give them the opportunity to do something for themselves. And that is the biggest thing. One of the most important thing about Balochistan that people forget is that it was an independent area. It had its own setup, it has its own flag, it has its own embassies, it has its own it was, I believe, registered in the United Nations as well. So there is a history to that place. It has its own foreign policy, as a matter of fact. But the issue is, it is a very, very sparsely populated area. So there is that particular problem there. Having said that, Balochistan will also need to be told, listen, your areas in Iran is not going to come to you. Because if you start doing that, you're going to have another problem in your hand. Right? So you need to create some sort of a agreement with the Iranians ki, okay, fine, to and fro area, this thing, some sort of relations between the two places, that needs to be done. And this area is very critical. So, the amount of oil the Pakistanis are actually putting, the 2 numbers ka oil that the Pakistanis are putting in their tanks, comes from here. I have seen videos and videos and videos of rows and rows of these trucks and cars and these pickup trucks carrying oil tankers, oil, jerry cans and stuff like that, coming into Pakistan and distributing this thing. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you remember, a couple of months ago, these terrorists hit a storage of this oil in Quetta. And the Pakistani said, 2 mahine ka pura, 2 months worth of smuggled oil is gone. So that network is there. So they will need to coordinate and cooperate with the Iranians, and they'll have to set it up. Now, you and I were having a conversation about Sindh in the morning. You said, why have you given it independence and not merged it? So the same reason as Gilgit Baltistan and POK. Let's look at Karachi for a moment. It's one of the most dangerous cities in the world. The kind of mafia, gundaism, all sorts of nefarious things that happen in Karachi. Karachi port is famous for its drug supply. All sorts of drugs that are found on the high seas go out of this port. So this thing needs to have a little bit of a self-cleansing sort of an area. Of course, as Indians, as Hindus, we have a very close affinity towards Sindh, because there are temples, there's a whole lot of things which are there. Understand that. But the reality on the ground is that place is unstable. Again, the matter of demography. You will be bringing in that many people into Rajasthan, into Gujarat, which is going to create furthermore problems for you. So the better it is that you create streamlined boundaries. Tell them, okay, fine, we will deal with your foreign policy. We will help you out with all this stuff, but you stay on your own. We cannot be dealing with your tamasha inside. You need to clear up your own mess. And of course, coming back to the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Now, Pakistan as an entity, sir, removing that entity is very difficult. Because, there is entrenchment, there is the ISI, there is this, there is that. All that can go to the dogs. There's no question in that. But at this moment, you see the whole of the ISI with what they're doing to you here, with what they're doing to you in Canada, what they're doing to you in Manipur, all sorts of things. So there's that strength which is there. So you need to surround this area, which is what you're doing, and squeeze it down. That's the only way they'll start behaving themselves. One of the reasons I've given them this particular space is because that's where they belong to. Pakistan is basically run by Punjabis, so Punjabistan. Let that be. There is no problem. The biggest thing here is Punjab, our Punjab, will need to have some adjustments done in the sense the Kartarpur Sahib needs to come back. There has to be deals done within the Lahore area where the second Gurdwara is there. That stuff needs to be sorted out, because otherwise you will not be able to, create that sense of semblance within the Sikhs. There will be resentment again. Yaar, tumne ye pura tod diya, hamara Gurdwara nahi leke aaye. That resentment will be there. You need to bring our holy places back. And that is not just for the Sikhs, sir. That's good for that's there for the Punjabi Hindus. That's there for the Dogras in the north. Everybody goes there. Please, sir.
One question, Adi. How far is Nankana Sahib from the current international border?
So it's about 12 kilometers from Lahore. So you can take a guess. It's quite far.
Lahore is 30 kilometers from Atari, right?
Yeah. So it's a little bit deeper inside Pakistan. That's what I'm saying, that you need to kind of create a system wherein, see, there are 2-3 solutions that can be done. And a lot of people have done this before in history. Either you say, okay, fine, the place is there. We bring the Gurdwara back. Right? There are radical solutions that can be done, but that decision has to be taken by the community, by the Sikh community. It cannot be taken by the government. You need to go ahead and actually have this discussion. In case Pakistan breaks up, would you be okay to bringing the Gurdwara back? To bringing the flag back, which is your flag, which is the book back? How do you deal with that situation is going to be a big question. Because if you create another entity which is going to have resentment, then why break Pakistan in the first place? If you are going to break Pakistan, then ensure that all the resentment which is there around within various different communities, there are certain temples which are there just across the border in Rajasthan as well. So some give and take will need to happen in this area to ensure that, theek hai, this we take, this you, this, that, all that stuff needs to be done. Because if you don't do that, you're going to create another resentment for the next, 300 years. And that is the problem. The last time when we did a division between both the countries, we left these fault lines open, which are being exploited. Kartarpur Sahib, we know, is being exploited by the Pakistanis to promote Khalistan. They've been doing it. They've been putting pictures there. They've been this, they've been that. As a matter of fact, they have a small poster there which shows a description of an Indian aircraft dropping a bomb allegedly on the Kartarpur Sahib, which never happened. But they do that. They'll kind of create that entire thing. So you don't need to give this opportunity to anybody that this should be done again. So that is the basic description of the map, sir. Any map that you do has to have some sense of reality. Like the Chinese put out, "Ye pura mera hai." I mean, that is stupidity. You're not having any sense of reality. And 90% of the times Chinese are increasing their claims is because they increase it here so that they can deal with that guy and do an exchange. The reason that they keep talking about Arunachal is because they want to deal with you. If you give up Ladakh, they'll say, okay, we back off from Arunachal. 90% of the time, it's a give and take sort of a thing. That's what they're doing with Bhutan. The Sakteng claim is, okay, you leave that, you give us the area along Tawang.
I have 3 or 4 questions already, so I'm going to just write it down. You finish your thought. I'm writing down the things.
So anything that one needs to come up with in this entire place has to have a sense of realism, has to be consolidated within the populations there. Ethnicity, religion, culture, all that stuff needs to be taken into consideration. Plus, these areas need to be encouraged to build up their own culture back again, sir. The Baloch have a very old culture. The Sindhis have a very, very old culture. That needs to be propagated for the stability of that area. For example, the Malaysians, which is an Islamic country, or the Philippines and stuff like that, they've got their culture, but they follow Islam. The Egyptians, the same way. They are very particular about their pyramids and this and that, but they follow Islam. They understand their history. If you're not going to do that here again, like the Pakistanis did, they told everybody, we used to rule India. That's what the narrative is, right? We've ruled Delhi for this and that and this and that. And you find every monkey on Twitter from Pakistan saying that. Then that is what you'll be sitting with. You'll be sitting with 5 Pakistans, which is as dangerous as having this.
So one thing that's going to happen for sure, guys, Pakistan will start coming out with these kinds of balkanized maps of India also. And who cares?
They've been doing that.
Yeah. So let us just ignore that for a moment. I want to just, for our viewers' sake, portray some of the things that I have gathered from reading as well as talking to individuals. In the 1965 war, India gained very good space in Punjab, but lost some space in Rajasthan/Gujarat. I don't remember the exact area. Okay, so that is the reason why there had to be some sort of a negotiations for settlement, which is why I guess Shastri went to Tashkent, and the rest, as we know, is history. In 65, my neighbor, he told me that he was a sepoy, and he said that, look, we were 4 kilometers away from Lahore, 4 kilometers away from Lahore.
There are photographs of that, sir.
India was actually running the entire administration. They were all dealing with Indian currency. Banks were working. Post office was working. They said these guys were very, very happy. So that part, when India withdrew, the whole thing just fell apart. Now, I'll go up to 1971. Sanjay Dikshitji, he was the collector of Barmer district, which is a border district. And he said 1971, India had walked into, again, Pakistan and occupied a fair amount of territory. Till the 1972, I think, 18 months or so before the actual agreement was signed between Bhutto and Indira Gandhi, India ran that place. Unfortunately, in that case, when the agreement was signed and the Indian army had to march back to India, all the Hindus from that area marched back with them. See, this is the problem. You cannot have this thing anymore. Remember, viewers, you have to remember, why is Pakistan in such a mess today? The reason is 1947, when things started going awry, 90% of the businesses in what is today Pakistan were owned by Hindus. 70% of the administration of the entire area was done by Hindus. And all of them just left with their clothes. Some managed to get some things out. That's about it. Okay. So they scattered. How many places? They went to Mumbai or India. They went to Dubai, and they also went to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Now we don't want to. Yeah, and we don't want to create a similar situation like in Bangladesh, where we came out of Bangladesh after liberating it, but we never did the second step, which was to return all the people, even the Hindus who were actually Bangladeshi citizens, back to Bangladesh. Everybody settled down in India. Life was easier here. So that cannot be done here. So what I have heard, Adi, is that India, if something like this happens, would actually occupy the area all the way up to the banks of Sindh. And the reason is there are 1 crore Hindus still to be rescued. And you can't, just leave it like suzerainty or something like that, that they will, something will happen and they'll start coming back. So we have to have a deterrent against that. That's what I have heard as a reason that India would actually annex up to the banks of Sindh. Whatever is remaining may be a suzerainty. This is what I have been told, and I've watched many videos. Your thoughts on this? Why this suzerainty for the whole thing? Because remember, you said that Sindh has a problem with law and order. I mean, we know that Miami too, he has a 200 people multi-perimeter circle of security. Only 8 of them got taken out recently, and still the 192, and then the rascal himself, right? So why this? Any idea why you are doing this way and not the other way that I mentioned?
Sir, see, the only thing is, I am not a very big proponent of a military operation. Because why lose lives when you don't need to? Right? When you do a military operation, then what's the difference between you and China who wants to do this? Anything needs to happen in this area, it needs to fall into your hand like a fruit from a tree. That is the key of that is the way of doing things. Because otherwise, you're creating another sense of regret. Understand your point about population. And that is why I said anything that needs to happen with the consensus of the people there. There will be migration. It's not that. People will move. People say, no, I'm not staying there. I want this, I want that. All that will be there. And you'll have to figure out a way how to deal with that. But the minute you send the military inside, sir, military, understand one thing, sir, no matter how good the Indian military is, which is, I think, one of the super best in the world, but there will be collateral damage that creates further resentment. Secondly, why should I use my military when this thing can be done? See, a breakup of a country is a political solution, sir. Right? It is a political solution. It's not a military solution. If you see the Russians that have gone into Ukraine, they've been doing this for the past 1.5 years. It takes time with the military. But when you do a political solution, it's much faster. So there is that aspect that we need to think about very clearly. Why go up militarily when you can actually politically, socially remove that area and get it to you and handle it? That is very, very important for us to understand, because militarily, when you go inside, so see, if let's say you're going inside and you're occupying the Sindh, you've got parts of Karachi, which is an urban city. It is an overdeveloped, overpopulated, over-constructed urban city. To fight in those kind of environments is absolutely ridiculous. Either you flatten the city out like what the Americans did to Raqqa and many other cities in Syria and Iraq, or you figure out another way, or you starve them and this and that, which creates a whole lot of other problems of refugees. But if there's a political solution, the infrastructure of that area remains as it is, whatever little infrastructure they have. Plus, it also gives that society an opportunity to do something for themselves. Here, if you get them in, you're going to be making them dependent. Exactly what's happening in the States and everywhere else. You broke their countries, now they're coming to you, and the Italians today are crying. Yaar, ye kya ho raha hai? What is this happening? Well, you guys bombed their countries, now they're coming to you. Secondly, the point is political decisions are very hard. They're very tough. They're very nagging, but they're permanent. At the end of it, after a military battle, so you still need to sit down and talk to that guy. You still need to sit down and have a political solution, because war, at the end of it, is another arm of politics. It's a destructive arm of politics, but it is politics. It's the same thing. So what you're hinting at and what I'm hinting at are basically the same things. And you're able to actually, in what I'm trying to say is basically to create a certain structure within the place, which creates a self-sustainability factor within it. That is critical. Post which, 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, if you find these guys are responsive, if you find they've been able to create something for themselves, if you do a referendum and this and that, and you get them inside, nobody's going to say anything. That's going to be fantastic. But that's with the will of the people there. Understand the Hindu population, which is going to be in trouble. But please do also understand, once Pakistan does break up, that entire narrative of that anti-Hinduism will need to be roughed out. And that is again a political decision. You can't take up a crore of people and put them in prison because they've got anti-Hindu sentiments. It's not going to work like that. You create even further resentment. So you need to have that balance that you need to create. I'm just beginning a conversation, sir. I may be right, I may be wrong. We need to have more people talking about and giving us suggestions. Ki Aadi, okay, you've made this. This is your thought process. I think this is the thing. You gave us one option that you take the area till Sindh and let the rest be. Fantastic. Sindh becomes a natural barrier between the rest of that entire area and us. Great solution. We need to start talking about this. The problem is the factor that we stop talking after we say Pakistan ko tod dete hain. And that is a very sadistic way of looking at things rather than a practical way of looking at things. I am going to become a little more practical and say, ki bhai, what do we do with this area? And that's a big question, sir. Apart from that, there's also another thing. What will induce Pakistan to break? Internal problems aren't enough for a country to actually break up. We've seen that. This country has been in the doldrums for the past, 10, 15 years. Apparently, internal problems and economics is not enough for it to break. There is still some force kind of keeping it together. So we need to find a geopolitical angle to it. What is happening with Pakistan today? How do we denuclearize it? And there is some talks about that as well. If you saw the recent interview, and I keep harping on this, Pakistan will never get denuclearized. It will be putting its weapons on sale. And the buyer is none other than Saudi Arabia. MBS the other day with an interview with one of these Western media channels, he said, if the Iranians get a bomb, so will we. Now, either MBS has a running nuclear program that he wants to produce a bomb, which is not known to the world, which is very difficult and very hard to believe, or he's just going to pay money, which he's planning to $25 billion to Pakistan and start buying his weapons. There is a reason why Pakistani weapons are known as the Islamic bomb, not the Pakistani bomb. So each thing has to have a setup, and how I see it, the process has begun, sir. Look at the way that the Middle East is starting to deal with Pakistan, saying that there is no more free money. You bloody well start giving us stuff for whatever money that we give. Karachi port, slow and steady, will be taken over by UAE. Dheere karke they're inching forward. And the Americans are going to say, okay, what money you're going to get from here, pay off the Chinese and get them out of your back. See, if you see the certain...
UAE. This is to UAE.
Yeah, UAE, Saudi Arabia. I won't be surprised if Qatar, all these three countries are worried about one big thing, sir, which is what? Food security. Have you seen there's a recent thing that the Pakistani army is now picking up some 45,000 acres of land to this? That's for what? So they want to also create a counterbalance to create some sort of a farmland so that they can have some food coming in from there. Where does that food come into? The Karachi port. Who has that? The UAE. So create our own supply chain within that place. Use this place. So reduce.
Fair enough. So, sorry, I thought you had finished your thought, but if you want to say something more.
No, okay. I'm just saying reduce that.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm just saying, sir, reduce that cohesiveness which is there as Pakistan. If you have more and more foreign players inside Pakistan, the Pakistani ability to do anything which is beyond a certain line will be heavily reduced. There's a reason why you brought UAE into Kashmir and making malls and stuff like that. Because if something big happens, the UAE is going to go and say, hey, listen, stop that nonsense there. It's called creating leverage.
Right. So, fair enough. So leverage is what I was coming to. You know that Pakistan has counterfeited Indian currency. One way Pakistan can poison pill itself from occupation by India or doing something like this is to say, okay, we will take Indian currency as legal tender in Pakistan. In other words, Pakistan's rupee is going down the toilet fast. They just say people can start trading in rupees. All they have to do is that they will honor it in the banks, and that you can bring in Pakistani rupee and take the equivalent Indian rupee, which is counterfeit. ISI has now lost its main source of revenue, which is the opium plant. Poppy cultivation, 88% has been destroyed by Taliban. Not TTP, but yeah. Huh?
Guess who's doing that? Guess who's working with them to do that?
No.
So you're sending them wheat, you're sending them this and that and the other. There is some leverage you're creating there as well, right? This kind of
It's
stuff does
possible.
not get reported. Yeah, it is quite possible. I don't have proof. But if you need to stabilize Afghanistan, one of the biggest things that you will do is get rid of the drugs.
Very true. Very true. Very true. So this is a poison pill that ISI could put, but I think the pride of the Pakistani is where it's going to be a problem. I mean, अपना रुपया बेकार है, India का रुपया अच्छा है. This is going to be a huge problem. I'm sure the thinking heads in ISI are mulling this. अरे हार counterfeit तो कर सकते हैं, लेकिन अगर लोग नहीं मानेंगे तो क्या होगा, right? So viewers, we are going wild with our imagination here a little bit.
No,
But
absolutely.
the point is, all these things have to be considered. It's not something simple like, okay, let's go and occupy tomorrow. It's not going to be something like that. Last question.
You
before
can't
I
have an
turn it over-
insurgency, sir. You cannot have an insurgency
Yes.
behind your back. I mean,
Yes,
it's going
yes,
to create
yes.
a whole lot of chaos.
True, true. So one thing is, you have not mentioned anything about Shaksgam Valley in this. What are your ideas for that? That also belongs
Sir,
to India.
Yeah, that does belong to India, sir. Now, China is a whole different monkey altogether. Right? You need to deal with China in a different way. And I have created a map of China as well, wherein all that area comes back to us. Khatam Kahani, there is no way. Because there is no border called India-China border. There is nothing of the sort. Now, that sort of a dealing will have to happen with the Republic of East Turkestan. The government in exile sits in Washington right now. I'm in touch with those guys as well. I've sent them the map of China. They were very happy. So, see, bilateral agreements will have to be signed with the Republic of East Turkestan.
Yes,
with
yes.
whatever republic or the Free Republic or whatever they want to call it for Tibet. Now, this is the funny part about Tibet. They've not even named the republic. So, the political solution has to be the key, because that's when you say, okay, fine, now this has happened. This is the plan. And that plan is always political.
Yes, true.
If you have the plan ready, the world will say, yeah, okay, let's do this. I'd recommend, sir, General Narayanan had actually given me a small paper, which has actually piqued my curiosity. And I'll announce it here. It's called Redrawing the Maps of the Middle East. Okay, it's a paper written by Colonel Rolf Peters somewhere in 2004. He's talking about the entire Middle East area, including Afghanistan and Pakistan as well. And he's given some of his thoughts with regards how Pakistan needs to go. He's given Gilgit Baltistan to Afghanistan and this and that and the other. So see, the Americans have something in the pipeline. They are working towards that. In that, he has put a Republic of Kurdistan, by the way. If you notice, who do the Americans support in Iraq? The Kurds. And they've got that northern Iraq with them.
Very true. Very true.
The whole plan of invading 7 countries and creating different sectors and this and that is actually there on the ground. The mistakes that the colonialists made from the First World War and the Second World War, they are planning to change. And one of the easiest way to change a certain area is create a war.
Very true. Very true. Very true. So that's where we stand as far as our discussion. This is what I would consider as an ongoing discussion. We'll have Aadi back very shortly. As this is just the beginning. We have stirred our hornet's nest. To be frank, everybody is going to be waking up. What the heck are these guys talking about? So we're going to have some fun doing this. Now let's take some questions from the viewers. Aadi, lots of questions for us. Sundar N wants to know, why did the US allow de-dollarization? Is it because the new deep state, the bankers, want an able population and they feel it's no longer available on global north?
So the population, I mean, you will agree with me, you're in the honestness. They're getting in all these people because they, in their mind, thought that these guys will come in and start making the working population increase their, reduce their working age population, start contributing into the social security fund, and this and that and the other. That's why they're letting all these hordes of people inside.
Well, not
there's a
true.
certain amount of guilt also.
Yeah.
But and see, it's ridiculous, that whole thought. But see, as far as the de-dollarization is concerned, sir, I asked this question as a counter question. What else can they do? Can they be the policeman of the world for the rest of humanity? It's not possible. You cannot have control so many growing powers at the same time. Look what they did to the Japanese in the 1980s. In the early 1980s, the narrative was Japanese will become the largest economy in the world by 1990. A small sign of the pen in 1985, 86, I forget the exact day, the Japanese economy is still not recovered from it. Those were the days of the unipolar movements, where the Americans were reigning supreme. Today they are not. So they need to open out this thing. They need to have regional power centers who they are very closely linked with, so that they can actually figure out what's happening in the world. That's how they would set up things. So de-dollarization is basically, to begin with, is the use of local currencies. And we can see that happening. India is buying oil from UAE. You're talking about doing the same thing with the Saudis. I think UPI is in some 22, 25 countries already. You're going to the African Union and saying, Bhaiya, or the entire union you take it, that's another 51 countries. You're talking to the Brazilians who are going to be forming a Latin American Union. As a matter of fact, Mr. Jaishankar met these guys yesterday. I wonder what they've spoken about. You're going to be spreading this all over the place. So you will have soon enough about 70 to 80 countries signing up onto the UPI. Power centers, regional power centers. That's what they want.
Well, we will see what's going to play out in this, and it's always going to be an intriguing possibility as to what will happen. And so Aditya R. Venkatramanan wants to know, Adi, the day is not far when Bharat will swat China and Pakistan and Gilgit Baltistan and reclaim those areas. Thoughts?
What does it mean by swat? What do you mean by swat? It's a military pushback. It's a political pushback. It is a game that you play that these guys just back away from that place because they realize they've lost. There are loads of things that you need to do. So yeah, I think there is a lot of work which is happening in that place. I think a lot more focus needs to be put in towards China, into Tibet. A lot more, involvement needs to be done within the Tibetan system. But yeah, I think this time is not far away, sir, because you, as a growing power, you need your surrounding to be emulating yourself and favorable to you. You can have small differences here and there. America and Mexico literally on each other's throats all the time. But Mexico dare not cross a certain line. Neither do the Canadians. Hey, that's that line. You don't cross that. Khatam. And even guys in Central America know that. You can say what you want to about America. You can abuse them. You can do what you want to. Send hordes and hordes of refugees. Nobody will say anything. You get a Chinese base inside there, you've had it. So that sort of a Monroe is an American doctrine. How do we build up a doctrine for ourselves? We need to think about this. It's not just easy becoming a superpower. I mean, or a big power or a regional power or whatever you may want to dream of it. You need to think about the region. And that's what Prime Minister Modi keeps saying.
True. Rahul Rathod wants to know, the acceptance of despotic, oppressive, and intolerant regime is in culture and religion's practice of peaceful guys. I don't think Pakistan will break up, but keep on fighting civil wars. Your views, sir?
Now, see, that's a very, very interesting way of looking at things. Why? Because if there's a civil war, I won't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Because you touch that and you're going to have, it's like COVID. It'll just float you, and then you will not know what to do about it. So if that is the scenario, then I'd rather build a 30-foot wall and just keep them there. You keep fighting. Once you finish fighting, give me a call. Then we'll figure out a political solution. But till the time you want to keep using your guns, please continue. That's not a problem. So India should not be like China, that, oh, I want to take this place by 2049. When you create a timeline for yourself, then you're forcing yourself into a corner. And you need to do it come what may after that. No timeline, yaar. Bharat has been there for thousands of years, will be there for another thousands of years. No problem. We'll be fine.
Rahul Rathod again, the partition of India is blessing in disguise. God forbid if India was united, then these guys may have screwed off India completely. Your views, sir?
Absolutely agree. Look at the kind of population that is there, sir. They're destructive. It's ridiculous, the kind of stuff that they do in that country. So yeah, I mean, good riddance. I agree.
Rahul, you have too many questions back to back. Sorry, I'll come back to you a little bit later. Shubha wants to know, Islamic Republic of Pakistan can be Khalistan and enjoy.
Why? To me, the Khalistan needs to be made in British Columbia and in Ontario. I have created a map. Please go onto my Twitter page. I've tweeted it out about 3 days ago. They love that. They love the culture there. Give it to them. Khalistan is also empty space, right? We don't have much empty space. Huge population. Canada has a lot. Give it to them.
We'll probably be doing that episode maybe next same time on next Tuesday, if time permits for you, Adi. I know I'll be ruining your holiday, the day off, but please consider it. 9 a.m. is early enough till to have the rest of the day to do something else. So, उठते उठते ये भी काम कर लिया.
Not a problem. So I do it. I'm up at 5:30 in the morning reading, so that's not a problem.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Gautam Desiraju, Namaskaram, sir. Wonderful book on Constitution. Where do you see Chitral in this scheme of things?
See, the events that happened, and I think Mr. Gautam has asked a very interesting question. I hinted towards the events that happened in Chitral was an eye opener. A lot of people just took it by the stride and said, "Yeah, this is just another attack." It's not. You see the direction, you see the location. One, they hit the Chinese and scared them off from that place. The CPC is not very far from the place that they hit. Two, they took over a Pakistani military outpost. Three, the kind of numbers that they came in with, and the Pakistanis took so long. They took about 1.5 to 2 weeks to take them out. Now that happens because they're in a built-up area. It takes time for them to take it out. But Chitral is a very important crux point. Some people do argue Chitral was part of Gilgit Baltistan. And I that is open to debate as of now. Even in my mind, I have not been able to make a decision where does Chitral's area stand. Because see, again, that comes back to the same thing I was saying, sir. The local people and the surrounding. If you take Chitral and the Afghans say, no, this is our area, you've got another problem in your hand after that. So, like you fixed your border with Bangladesh, some amount of give and take, enclaves, this, that will have to happen. There's just no question about it.
Goddank XP wants to know what to do about Trudeau. Castro Jr. amid his minions are still saying India should be investigated. What is wrong with him? How to fix this mess?
I think he's going to fix himself, sir. He's fixed himself into a corner. I'll say this one thing very clearly, sir. Narratives are narratives. Actions are totally different. You can keep calling India the this and that and the other, but then you sit with India in the Quad meeting. Your defense department calls up the Indian government and says, yeah, you guys are the most important thing in our Indo-Pacific policy. The attack from Trudeau came on the 19th. On the 20th, the defense department put out some 30-page long paper on why India is so important. So this is a battle between the old establishment, the colonial establishment, which is the State Department, and the new establishment, which are the hedge fund managers, the military industrial complex, and so on and so forth. One is saying we can't do it without India. One is saying, no, India is damn bad. So let them fight. I have no problems. Here the point is, sir, the more there's stupidity that they do, you see what has happened to Justin Trudeau in his own parliament. He brought in a Nazi. Brainless, that's all. So you'll discredit yourself. Continue.
Abhi picture baki hai in that. So
bahut baki hai, sir.
Albin Joe wants to know, as an atheist Bharatiya, I haven't heard any mention on how Sanatana Dharma sees people who are non-believers. I hope you guys don't take this question. No. We'll take this question. Go ahead, Aadi.
Sir, we don't have any, as part of Sanatana Dharma, and this is something, my limited knowledge, I think you have more in that, more knowledge in this, that we don't have a problem with what you believe, what you don't believe. Our way of looking at things, and is something that we were taught, there are multiple ways to reach God. I mean, there are multiple ways of, going close to the divine being. But I think one of the biggest things is the Sanatana Dharma's journey is the journey of knowledge. So when you go back up, the representative who meets you there asks you, what have you learned in your life? If you say, I have not done anything, but make Instagram reels and jump around here, then he's going to send you back. Go learn and come. It's about knowledge.
Yeah.
Knowledge is perpetual. It cannot be destroyed.
And Alvin, do take a look at PVR Narasimha Rao's videos on P Gurus, where
Yeah.
one of them he talks about Jivatma and Paramatma. Because we go around this thing, how many gods are there? And I started out with the premise that there's actually one God, Parabrahma. That Parabrahma has Nirguna Swarupa, meaning he doesn't have a face or any structure, any form. So the common man couldn't understand that. How can there be God, but that God cannot have any form? So the rishis had to kind of come up with a way that the common man could worship God. That's why they worship the land before they plant their seeds. There is the Bhumi Puja. Okay, so like this, for each their own. If you look at a driver of a bus, a Sanatani, I've seen this thing hundreds of times. This is placed, let's say, from Delhi to Mumbai or Bombay to Goa. The guy, the first thing he will do before he starts the bus is he'll make a prayer. You can see that even today, even in this new secular India also, you'll still see that, because he needs that focus, that concentration, that determination to be to try to have that sixth sense about what is happening around him. Indian roads are very unpredictable, right? And only then he'll start the bus, right? So this is what happens. And there is room for non-believers. There's also Ninda Stuti, where you say, I believe in you, God, but you didn't help me. And the guy will give you a litany of all the problems he has faced and say, where are you? This is like the Diva dialogue, So that's also allowed. The thing is, there are many paths to God. In fact, I'll leave you with this thought. One of the words for God in Tamil is Kadavul. That means that within you. So there is a God within you. So you cannot deny that. What is that God within you? It's that little voice that tells you sometimes, you're thinking about doing this, don't do this. And that little voice has thought through what the consequences are. That is the God. So nobody can, walk away and say that I don't have a God. So anyway, that's my 2 cents for you.
You still believe in your conscience, right?
Yes.
Nobody,
Sir,
when you sorry, one last thing. When you're born, nobody tells you it's wrong to be against your mother. That's innately known, right? So there is a lot of knowledge within us which needs to be just brought out. That's it.
Rajshree wants to know, Aadi sir, please analyze anti-Sanatana Dharma slogans and SB 403, which is aiming for caste profiling in the garb of caste discrimination. Iyer sir did speak about it. Right time for detailed analysis.
So you are like the foremost authority in this, but my limited knowledge only tells me one thing. You can take caste, you can take Khalistan, you can take the Muslim factor. They will look for a fault line. If somebody thinks that they're bothered about the caste part of it or this part of it or that part of it, you're sadly mistaken. They are not. That's one of the reasons why when you explain to them that, boss, the caste is not what you think it is, they refuse to believe it. Because for them, it's a fault line that they're using against you. So you can convince them about the caste, they'll pick up another one. The north-south thing, the east-west thing, the this, the that, the this, the that. But the funny thing, and this is the biggest, most important thing these idiots don't realize, I'm sorry, is that India is such a diverse country which has such many fault lines. It gives them more opportunities to trouble us, but it also gives us more opportunities to protect ourselves, because of the diversity, you can only light a small place on fire. You can't light the entire country. It's damn difficult. Because
next question, please.
Nothing of the same thing resonates anywhere.
Why would US or China, for that matter, allow for a breakup of a nuclear state? I want you to take a shot at this, Aadi.
See, sir, China today is going to be... Trust me, the Chinese aren't happy with the Pakistanis. If somebody is going to say, oh, they're best of friends, and they use the Pakistanis against you. That's it. They're going to give them old fighter aircraft, old this, old that, and keep them happy. Right? They don't like the Pakistanis at all. That's one of the reasons why you've seen the way the Chinese treat them. Secondly, as far as the US is concerned, US understands what the Pakistanis are capable of in this place. And that is where your leverage also comes to the bay, right? If you want something, if the US wants something from you, you want something from the US. You bloody well start pulling those strings. Secondly speaking, if you look at what the US has done in Afghanistan, left so many weapons, this and that and the other, that tells you. I mean, the US pays $60 million stipend to the Afghans every week. For
60
what?
million?
$60 million, sir. Yeah. For what?
For their payroll, at least, I think.
Yeah. People forget this, that US is gone. US went from there after long negotiations. They would have got something out of it. Nobody's that stupid. You're not a Pakistani that you're talking about. You're talking about a global superpower.
Next question, please. Shaurya Mashruwala wants to know, sir, should India try using Israel's model of reclaiming Palestinian territory in parts of Western Punjab, push out the radical people and get back whatever small land back?
That's a way. Why not? That's a way. That's a military way. You lose lives. But please understand, if you want to be a developed country by 2047, that's what your plan is, right? 25 years of Amrit Kal, you don't need a war during that time. Till that time, you're a 10 trillion economy, you don't need a war. It's going to be very devastating to
you. I have to admit that Adi's plan is more workable than what I was saying about going all the way up to the edge of sin militarily. You know why? I didn't say militarily, but India has that kind of an annexation in mind. My take on this is, see, Israel has a lot less land to work with as far as Palestine is concerned. This is not very big land, guys. It's not very big land. You can do it, but they build their enclaves with war-hardened families. Father would be a fighter. Every male, every female will be a fighter. Conscription is compulsory in Israel. Men and women, everybody has to serve 2 years or 3 years, something like that. They're all war-hardened. They know what to expect. They know when incomings will come, and they know how to give it back also. So this kind of a mindset will not work when you are dealing with large swaths of land. So somebody has to do a full surrender, sharanagati, complete surrender. कि भाई आप आकर हमको राज कीजिए, something like that.
That can be only done when you break the damn thing down to its bits.
Yes. Next question, please. Rajendra Dubey wants to know, isn't it true Tibet was part of Raja Hari Singh Empire along with Jammu and Kashmir?
Not the entire Tibet. Not the entire Tibet. They had gone to a certain part. General Zorawar Singh had conquered certain areas. But then he was killed in Tibet itself. So.
Next one, please. Saurabh Jain wants to know, in case of Pakistan crisis and they send waves of refugees, what will be government response? International pressure can even keep them out? Will it be another Bangladesh-like situation?
Exactly what I'm saying. If you go in with a military thing, the first thing that's going to happen is all these guys will pack their bags and sit in Punjab, Rajasthan, and Gujarat. What do you do with that? If you destroy their entire country or their entire house and their entire city or roads or whatever it is, what will they do there? They'll come to you. Political solution ensures that whatever little infrastructure which is there remains the way it is. There will be rioting, there will be this, there will be that. It's not as devastating as dropping 1,000-pound bombs on a city. I mean, they're two different things. You look at what the Russians will have to do in Ukraine. We are all very happy, Ukrainians are getting, beaten up. But the Russians will have to put in so much more effort, money to rebuild that place. And they've actually put in there, I think they've got 24 separate provinces or something like that. I may be wrong with the numbers. But they've actually allocated responsibilities for each one of those. This area you will develop, this area you will develop, this area you will develop. So people from Siberia today are developing Mariupol. Look at the amount of additional responsibility you're putting onto yourself. Are you ready for that?
Next question, please. Kuldeep Kaushik wants to know, can Afghanistan be India's ally for keeping check on Pakistan permanently?
I won't be surprised if they're doing that even now.
Right.
The Pakistanis do blame you for it. Somewhere down the line, there has to be some truth in what the Pakistanis say. I don't know what the RAW does or what the government does. I'm just trying to insinuate to something. Maybe horribly wrong, maybe right. Knowing us, we keep things quiet.
Next question, please. Devil's advocate. Thank you, Devil's advocate. Sanatani is a person who is not stupid enough to claim copyright over the definition of Supreme God or to say Paramatma.
Yeah. I think that's a very, very interesting and very right statement. You have your way, sir. I have mine. Yours is different. Mine is different, but we don't fight about it. You may be a Vaishnavite, I may be
your way. The difference is we respect your way.
You may be a Vaishnavite, you may be whatever. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We both know that what the pathway leads to is that one thing. And we'll be curious. Okay, you do this? Really? Okay, well, let me try this next time.
I think that's all the questions. Last one. Stone wants to know, wait, so China gonna use Pakistan against India like US is using Ukraine against Russia? That doesn't sound too good.
They've been using that. They've been using the Pakistanis for the past 40 years, sir. Mr. Stone 420, right? They've been doing that. Pakistani army is today, if you remove the J-10s and the J-7s that they've got, their fighter aircraft, they'll be left with nothing. Broken old F-16s and broken old Mirage 3s which don't fly. So it's the Chinese that have been giving them. And I want to ask this to a lot of people here. Okay, fine. What are the Pakistanis paying the Chinese in?
Nothing.
Because these are half-lives.
I heard donkeys have been going back. Women are being sold, I heard.
Children.
And children.
Yeah.
And probably now farming, like that 45,000 acres is probably the exclusive produce that to be developed for China. That's what I heard somewhere. I think it might have been Arif Ajakia.
Yeah, the Chinese are doing two things in Pakistan. One is they have created the supply chains for what they need. But the problem is that the Pakistanis are, I mean, I don't want to use the word, but such kachra guys, they are stealing out of that also. Now the Chinese look away to a certain extent, but now it's a point of time where they're saying, yeah, listen, you're eating up the maximum. What are you doing? So they've switched off everything. They're not putting anything. And plus on top of it, when their buses go around, people bomb them. So the Chinese are damn pissed here. What is happening here? We've given you so much money. We made your grandfather, your granduncle, your chacha, mama, taya, everybody is rich because of us. Give us what we want at least. So the Pakistanis can't be trusted. That's why I keep saying this. You need to, it needs to go. That's the last thing I would say. So Pakistan needs to go. How is on us to decide.
Yes. And viewers, this brings us to a close of what I would consider is one of the most fascinating discussions, because we are taking a step ahead. We're looking into the future this time, not reacting to what happened in the past. And that is, to me, is a new way to look at geopolitics. Thank you, Adi. And it just struck me in the morning, why not invite Adi? And to my good luck, the man was up. The man was ready to do it at a moment's notice. And here we have. Viewers, that's how some of our really good programming happens. Good things happen in a hurry. This is again God's way of saying. Sometimes, something good happens to you in a very, very quick amount of time. Ye kaise ho gaya? Bas, Bhagwan ki ichha thi. That's all I can say. Thanks once again, Adi. And we'll be back again with Adi to talk about the map of Canada. And we'll do some brainstorming in the back. When he's ready, he'll tell me and he'll be back for sure. Thank you once again. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar.